Thank you all for the opportunity to be here today. Very, very exciting. Bad news is that I'm following lunch and some great speakers. So forgive me if I can keep you guys up for 30 minutes. I am going to be pretty proud of myself. As Kathleen mentioned, most folks have heard of J.D. Power and Associates, but I just want to confirm that. Who here has heard of J.D. Power and Associates? Uh-oh, looks like one of them over there hasn't heard. J.D. Power. Now, how many of you all know that J.D. Power has a well-defined contact center practice? Yeah, so we got 3 or 4, 5 now. Yeah, so I'm the marketing guy, so I'll be fired if we come back next year and we have the same response. One of our goals is to help folks understand that we are the voice of the customer, but we're not just the voice of the automotive customer, we're the voice of the customer really at all phases of the interaction that customers have with companies, both product and service related. So with that little introduction, I wanted to, one, thank you all, and two, you know, this is really the direct marketing portion of the program, I would say. But hopefully, the information that we share with you will have some direct applicability to not only how you help create a brand, but manage and maintain a brand. So a lot of the information that we've gotten today has been about how we introduce or launch new products. This is really, and the particular part I'm going to speak on is how we service those customers and clients after those products or services have been purchased. So with that as the backdrop, let's run through the agenda very quickly. I'm going to chat a little bit about our perspective, talk about our research and why this information may have some bearing or some interest or some validity for those of you in the room. Going to talk briefly about some product trends versus service trends over the past 10 years as it relates to customer satisfaction, kind of interesting there. Then we're going to speak specifically around this notion of automation and the question of automation overload, particularly how self-serve automation, web channel, IVR self-service, mobile, text, social media, how that has an effect on the human beings who are answering the phone and on the consumers who are choosing to pick up the phone and make an interaction with an organization in person versus these self-service channels. It's kind of interesting, the ramifications of that. We're also going to talk about how organizations are responding to that phenomenon and what it is that they're doing and what they need to do to make sure that they are providing a great level of service in this kind of new normal. Then we're going to switch gears and talk about everyone's favorite subject, the IVR. I mean, who does not love a good IVR? That's a little inside joke for us telemarketers. But the IVR, of course, is interactive voice response, and that is the little machine that we get when we try and call up our company, right? And that creates a whole lot of problems, angst, issues, and there is a very interesting trend going on right now in the marketplace, specifically regarding this piece of automation or technology that has profound effects, both short-term and long-term, to organizational profitability and customer satisfaction, and we're going to chat about that. Then finally, before we talk about how we can use automation to enable customer delight, we're going to touch a little bit on the multi-channel experience and what our research says what's going to need to be in place for those of us in the business of serving customers across multiple channels in order for us to satisfy and exceed expectations. And then finally, we'll end with I'll give you a quick glimpse into what some organizations are doing to help deal with the utter complexity of the call that most folks who are answering the phone, especially in a service environment today, are facing. Quick overview on us, international company, been around since 1968. We're all about customer satisfaction. We interview millions of consumers each year and not only consumers, but business, small business owners and large business with their satisfaction with the services that they receive. We have a large presence here in Asia. We've made some acquisitions, and this is obviously a burgeoning market, but the vast majority of our business is still either in the United States or with companies who want to understand what it takes to create a superior customer experience with U.S. consumers. Our contact center perspective is built on research. I was sad to hear Roger essentially give us a little backhanded swipe. Evidently our research has zero validity. So we will, hopefully that's not true, but we are kind of a traditional market research company in that we go out, ask folks for their opinion, what drives them. We do some statistical and derivative analysis to understand what are most important to consumers, but we are definitely not neuroscientists. I would like us to become. So I was really fascinated by so much of this, and hopefully we can perhaps join forces. I'm interested in chatting with all of you. So let's talk about our VOC contact center research and why this data may have some validity. So we've gone out over 20 studies and millions of consumers and tried to understand what motivates people to purchase a product or service, then what defines quality in both the sales process and the post-sales service process. And as a result, we have a very large database, cross industries of organizations, that allows us to really derive what is most important to customers when they call into a contact center. So we measure very similar things in terms of importance drivers for a retail interaction, a web interaction, a chat interaction. I'll touch on some of those, but mainly today, given the setting that we're in here with Taylor Institute, I'm going to focus on the contact center and those folks who are picking up the phone and serving our collective customers, or perhaps serving those of you in the room. The research really encompasses these three areas: satisfaction, which is sentiment. Those are things like, was the rep knowledgeable? Did they answer the phone quickly, right? Was I able to get to the right person? Did they exhibit concern? Did they exhibit courtesy? Those are some of the satisfaction type questions. We also measure the IVR satisfaction that folks have when they first call in. It's kind of, we're going to spend a little bit of time on the IVR, because at the end of the day, what we found is if you don't get the IVR, or when you first enter in a company in that automated phone system, if you don't get that right, it's very difficult to delight your customers. We also ask diagnostics. So the goal of a diagnostic question is to understand essentially the mechanics of the interaction and correlate that to how folks feel about a brand. So that means we can determine the break point for how quickly any individual company or industry needs to answer the phone, as an example, before customer satisfaction begins to degrade. We had, as an example, two companies in the same broad industries but slightly different niches. And for one organization, if you didn't answer the phone within 2 seconds, your customer satisfaction began to degrade immediately and precipitously, over 100 points on a 1,000-point scale. Another company in the same industry, their customers expected about 48 seconds. So if you could just answer the phone within that first 48 seconds, you would fall within a service band that would mean to that consumer that there is virtually no difference in how they felt about that interaction, whether it was at 46 seconds or 30. So the operational ramifications is that, hey, from a staffing perspective, we know within that one consumer set that we don't have to staff to answer the phone within two seconds. We can staff to answer the phone within 40 seconds and still have the same level of satisfaction. And then finally, we correlate everything with loyalty and advocacy. People are always asking us, how do you put a number on customer satisfaction? And that's really how we do it. It is the correlation between how satisfied, from an index methodology perspective, how satisfied a consumer is with the product and service in its totality, with their likelihood to advocate for it or their likelihood to purchase.